Hello and welcome to the November edition of the TetraCast, RPG Site's monthly podcast. Joining us today is Adam Vitale.
Monthly podcast. We forgot to do it last month.
We did. We missed out on a month. Everything got kind of tied up.
I don't know. Just kind of disappeared.
Yeah. We wanted to save it up for this month to bring up even more news, right?
That's one way to look at it.
That's the official story.
We missed a lot of stuff last month. I'm sorry, guys.
Monthly podcast confirmed.
Monthly podcast, bi-monthly podcast. This is why we don't do weekly podcasts, because it's hard enough to get
podcast on the internet, bi-monthly.
There you go. That's how we break it down here. So, and also, of course, joining us as well again is Darren MacPhail, our video guy.
That's me.
That's
mispronouncing
you. You will never
mispronouncing Pier Solar as Pier Solar.
Solar flare. That's
too much Dark Souls and too late of a recording, I guess.
I didn't want to say anything. I just, after a while, I sort of assumed that is how you pronounce it, because it's like, wait, what?
Well, the developers actually commented on one of the videos, and they pointed that out. It's like, yeah.
Yeah, they were pretty pumped about the fact that you did a video review for them, but
no, he liked the review. They liked the review and all that, but he's just like, yeah, it's just solars and solar system, not like the guy from Dark Souls. It's like, okay, sorry.
You're kind of 2 for 2 actually, because the developers, the Xseed actually commented on your Legend of Heroes Trails in the Sky video review as well about the engine.
At least I got my
got that wrong
my
too.
Info right on Pier Solar. At least I got my info right.
It's every video you're going to do, it's going to be something wrong, and then they're going to come in and help us out.
If it gets them there, I think that's all the better.
Hey, that's how we get good relationships with the developers here. So that's how we do things in RPG Site. We cause mistakes and hope people come here to remedy it later. So, and then also joining us is actually someone who was working with RPG Site in its early days and has come back to help us out again, Kitty Punsly.
Hi, it's nice to meet everybody. I'm really excited.
You probably don't know half the people who work for this, or most of the people that work for this site anymore.
I'm glad we have your familiar face. Yeah.
There we go. I'm probably the only person you know since our site. Oh, actually, we met each other at E3, didn't we? Last yeah, so got to meet some of the Got to meet David. Actually, that was like following a little bit of a... Was that following the car accident?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, I was talking to you on the phone, and in the midst of all that, you hung up, and I was like, I kept calling you back, like, what happened? Apparently, I thought I caused the car accident. Apparently, someone rear-ended you. So.
Someone 2 cars behind me rear-ended me. Yeah.
You apparently caught in like some sort of domino effect where...
I can't go to E3 without like getting into some kind of trouble. It's just how it is.
That's Los Angeles for you, really.
Yep.
So, I'm terribly sorry if I got any sort of involvement with that. But then again, it was beyond your control. As you said, 2 cars behind you. Don't know what was going on there. So that's bumper-to-bumper traffic. That's Los Angeles.
Exactly.
So, but yeah, let's... But, yeah, it's good to have you back. I'm glad to see more familiar faces with us. Maybe we'll see some other people show up again. To be honest, I don't even remember you and Alex back then. I'm trying to remember who else was, Emmanuel or something like that. I forget. But anyway, now that you're back, now we can, because everyone here, I mean, David's not here this time. Simon's not going to be here for this podcast. They both have other things to do, so I roped you guys
without
in.
Simon, it'll be a bit quieter.
Quieter, and without David, it's going to be a little bit louder.
Right. So it balances out.
It's a balance, David brings the sort of the calmness, the relaxation, and then Simon just blows the doors off everybody. So let's get into it. So first off, I mean, I'd like to know what you guys have been playing. I mean, Adam, what have you been playing lately?
Well, it's been a while since we talked. A couple of months ago, I was playing Natural Doctrine to review it for the site, and currently I'm playing Lightning Returns. Just
how is someone who actually has a bit of appreciation for Final Fantasy 13? How you feeling? How you feeling right now about it? Hello?
I think that means he doesn't like it.
No, didn't. We lost Adam a bit there. Well, Here, let me hang up on Adam, and then we'll call him right back. Are you guys still here too? Oh, good. His power went out.
Oh my God.
Oh, I wondered for a second. I thought it was going nuts. So that says let's move on. Let's move on. So Katie, what have you been playing? We're gonna smooth this over a little bit. Let's
you gotta treat this like a zombie apocalypse. When your arm gets bit, you just gotta cut it off.
That's right. This is very topical. That's right there. I see it. I see what you were doing. So.
Well, I've been replaying Final Fantasy IV for my Android tablet, and I've really liked all of the changes and stuff they've made, the updated looks, and it works really well on the touchscreen. You can't move around, say, a building very well, but you can move around the world map quite easily. So.
Does it have like the kind of control where, as long as you press in some area of the like bottom corner or something like that, it works? Or is it the very like you need to press your finger down on this image of a D-pad or something like that?
No, it's wherever you put your finger, it just creates like a little D-pad. And so
Good. I hate that's
the other one's the worst. The other one's so much worse.
It can't figure out the shape of like, say, a narrow building or hallway, but it can. But like, if you have an open world like you do with Final Fantasy, you can wander the map pretty easily. And
wow,
I'm playing that and The Binding of Isaac, which is scary, spooky, and on sale for everyone this Halloween weekend. And it's on sale coming up to the release of The Binding of Isaac Rebirth, which I think is coming out on November 4th. And that's have a bunch of new features and new bosses. I think it's going to be really fun. I'm really stoked about it.
Yeah. And actually, it's part of the whole PlayStation Plus for November as well. So people who have a subscription to that can pick it up, which is kind of cool that they're willing to, put the game out like that. I mean, obviously it's not a very expensive game. It's been out for a while. I guess they're trying to draw interest in it, but it's a cool roguelike that I guess it's people don't like to hear that term too much, but I think it looks a lot of fun. It's kind of like this is kind of what I was talking about before. It feels like it goes room by room like a roguelike would, like a dungeon crawler kind of thing, like a really old school Zelda type of game. I think I heard the developers kind of compare it to Zelda a little bit in the past, and so it's pretty cool. I heard the boss fights are really bad, though. Not bad, but very different.
Yeah, no, it's a tough game, and that's one reason why it reminds me a lot of early Legend of Zelda stuff. Is just you're going into all these different rooms, and you're just trying to run around, simultaneously shooting at things and dodging things.
Well, that's cool. So, have you been playing anything else?
Mostly those two. I've been playing a lot of stuff, roguelikes, even though I know everyone else hates roguelikes and such on Steam. But I really...
Is there anything else? I've always seen that stuff on sale, but I'm trying to figure out what... Because I personally, I'm kind of into that as well. It's especially the turn-based roguelikes, Legend of Grimrock 2 came out recently, and I've been meaning to play that. I was a big fan of the original. Have you tried any of that stuff?
No, I haven't. I've played a lot of Rogue Legacy, which is it's sort of old school platform, jumping around, fighting things. Also, randomly generated dungeons. And
what platform have you been playing on? Because I actually picked that up for the Vita recently.
I played it for the PlayStation, for the PC, but I do think it'd be really fun on Vita. It's got that total handheld game kind of feel.
It's really good. It fits really well, especially with the smart cross save kind of stuff, where it picks up right where you had left off previously, and so it keeps all the things that you had before. How far you got in the dungeon. Well, I guess it'd be more the stuff, your skills and things like that you unlocked from the previous generations. But it's a good fit for the handheld too. But on the PC, that game has been one of my favorite games to play on the PC.
Yeah,
for sure.
And I'm really glad that they're finally realizing how important stuff like cross-saving is. I think one thing in the news was that Final Fantasy V on iOS finally got saving to the cloud.
It did. They put out an update.
Yeah, and it's
yeah.
about damn time. Now what about every single other game?
Actually, I think I heard that it was broken for a bit even when they updated it, but then I think they recently got it working. So that's cross save. It's kind of a weird line to like cross because people. It's kind of annoying that like with every game release, people are assuming that if this game is on the PS4, PS3, and Vita, it needs to be crossed by. And that I can completely disagree with. That it's like, hey, you're going to lose a lot of money this way. I've seen a lot of people kind of think that it's the only way to go to make the Vita successful or something like that. I don't know. But I would honestly, rebuy it. Have you tried it on consoles, Rogue Legacy yet? Or
no,
is it
I've just
PC?
tried it on the PC, but I probably would want to. I do just plug in my Xbox controller and play that way because it has that sort of feel to it, like it makes it a lot easier to jump and shoot.
Yeah, I mean does the PC version have cross save as well?
No, it doesn't at all, and it was very annoying because I have a PC and a Mac, and so it works on both platforms, but you have to completely either start over or import your save into like Dropbox or something like that.
Yeah, I mean I know that Rogue Legacy on the consoles has cross-buy, by the way. I mean you can buy it on the Vita and it works on PS3 and PS4, so that's one of those games that I think has been kind of a runaway hit. I've had a lot of fun with that. Darren, did you ever try that stuff?
I've been meaning to. It looks really similar to the Metroidvania, Castlevania games, and that really appeals to me. And especially, I love playing things on my Vita. I love my Vita, so I've been meaning to pick it up. But I guess it's a matter of just waiting for a sale or something, or when I have time.
Yeah, I mean, Rogue Legacy is not really much of an RPG, of course, but I just think that it's cool that it's got that. It's an indie game, but it's got so much in it, so much going for it that not to detract from it, of course. I mean, there's plenty of pretty cool indie games. I mean, that seems to be like lately the go-to is like the indie crowd because the big AAA titles are they've all been either delayed till next year or something.
Or they're only 900p or 30 frames per second or something, right?
Yeah.
No,
it's mostly just that indie games like have brought back that sort of punishing, like really difficult challenge that gamers love, and like AAA games are kind of getting easier, right?
It's handholdy, yeah. That's kind of what it's felt like. I mean, games like Dark Souls aside, I mean, Dark Souls isn't really that difficult. I found, at least though I played Dark Souls 2, honestly, so it's like people say that's an easy game and stuff like that. And I pretty much like sat in the back in a boss fight and just kept casting like Soul Arrow all the time or whatever, and just pretty much like weaseled my way through any fight. So, but yeah, so you're Binding of Isaac and stuff like that. And that's kind of what you've been playing lately, Rogue Legacy. Cool. Darren, what have you been up to?
Outside of Pier Solar, which I did for RPG Site, which was a very solid Genesis game. Which is interesting, seeing it was a homebrew title, and then it became more.
Check that title out, by the way. I was saying, check out that video. The guys, anyone out there who hasn't seen the video yet, it's really good.
Thanks.
I like your videos.
I would say it was a solid review myself, but hey, I'm the guy who made it, so I'm a little biased. But it's really, if you like Lunar, you can get it on the Vita now too. Speaking of which, it just released for Vita, and it's coming out for Wii U on November 6th.
That's right. I forgot about that.
That was like the original platform for the HD version was like the Wii U, and then whatever happened with that, and now it's here. That's the important thing. If you like Lunar, if you like working design titles like Grandia or Lunar, I think it's really enjoyable and it's really evocative of those games.
How were you following Pier Solar like back when it was kind of still growing up? Because I remember hearing a lot about that, especially when they were talking about this game's coming to the Genesis?
I think I saw a review from Mark from Classic Game Room on his YouTube channel. He had a review for the Genesis cartridge, and I saw that, and I was like, oh, wow, that looks pretty neat. And then I think it was right before Nintendo Power had its last run, they actually covered it or something. I think they did like a Wii U coverage, or they showed the game to some regard.
That's like one of the things that I've been kind of impressed with, that they've been able to take this game and put it on the Genesis. And I think it turned into... Was it like they were trying to make it a Sega CD game or something like that afterwards?
It was a Sega CD game, and then they switched to the Genesis, but they also provide a CD for using all the audio and sound effects if you have a Sega CD. So you can play it with both. And it's even released for the Dreamcast with all the HD version stuff.
They actually, was it like you can buy Dreamcast version
copy,
and then,
which is crazy.
Oh my gosh. That's, every time I see like a new game, it's mostly been like shmups and stuff like that they've been putting out for the Dreamcast. Even like, I think like a couple weeks ago, a popular company that's been still making Dreamcast shooters just put out a new one. That kind of stuff I'm very excited about, just because I grew up with that stuff.
It's
so
always
I can
cool
imagine.
to hear there's still like a game coming out for a system that's that old.
Yeah, and it's not like, some people like to say like these games are just trying to, feed into the nostalgia and stuff like that. It's like this company is actually going out of its way to make a game that fits for that platform.
Oh yeah,
physically.
like even though I compare Pier Solar in the video and even when talking about it now, even though I compare it to Lunar and stuff like that, it's not necessarily worse than them. It stands right alongside them. It's a really solid game.
It's optimized for the Genesis. It's like not like the Mega Man 9 and stuff like that, where it's trying to create a game that might fit that. It's like, let's see a modern company, make a game that's meant for this platform using its limitations.
That would be a really interesting and creative challenge for some companies to do. I'd love to see something like that, but let's be realistic. I don't think that'll ever happen. But hey, that would be super sick to see.
Not really. I mean, it's been kind of cool hearing about what people think they want to, pull off with that kind of stuff. And, like following people like Robert Zoid, who made the Call of Cthulhu and Breath of Death games and stuff like that, talking about like he's making Cosmic Star Heroine right now, and apparently it's going to be shown off in December for the first time playable. And he's just like seeing this weird like evolution where they were used to making like these NES style games. Then it's like, well, now it's 16-bit Super Nintendo, and now they want to move into like Saturn ages of 2D, and then like what is going to be like 64-bit and stuff like that. It's kind of funny just reliving a lot of that stuff, So, and then I can be shocked when I see Final Fantasy VII again for the first time. So yeah, I mean, apparently Adam's power went out, so we lost him earlier, but I tried to get him back on, but he's still trying to get his power going, so we'll add him when he's available again. But, I mean, I myself, I've been kind of stretching my legs with some other games. I mean, there were a bunch of RPGs that were released in September, and some even this past October that we've been covering for the site, and so I myself reviewed... No one wants to talk about it, but it's like Shinobi Versus I covered for the site, and
boobs are life, ass is hometown, I believe is the saying.
That's life in hometown, living my life 24/7. I'm all about the hometown mostly. No,
Are you a life guy or a hometown
it's one of those,
guy?
I'm a hometown guy, but no, it's one of those series that people seem to be very disruptive about. It's really difficult to talk
quite easily.
That's the thing. Like trying to play those types of games and people giving you nasty looks.
Were you
dude,
playing it
whatever.
in public?
That's cool. I played it at work.
Nasty looks from people.
Honestly, it's not like I'm like turning it around and showing it to everybody that this is the game I'm playing or something like that. It's just more like as soon as someone sees you playing a game like that, they get like this immediate impression of the type of person you are. It's like, dude, okay, this is the same time when I read people typing, not to get off on a tangent, of course, sorry. I don't want to, go too deep into this. It's just that when I read about how people, their impression of people who do this, like, how dare you, you're this, sexist person or something like that. It's like, dude, it's fine. We're all unique people. We have our own personalities, our own tastes, our own thought processes. It's like I'm not this type of person. I just, Shinobi Versus is a kind of fun Dynasty Warriors type of game that lets you chain up a bunch of combos with all these different characters, each with their own styles and combat and stuff like that. And I get deep into the RPG mechanics where you're building stats and stuff like that. It's very much about leveling up your character, finding different equipment to equip on them to build their character. It's kind of cool. I like that stuff a lot. And it was like a few months ago when I played Mugen Soul Z, I didn't realize how like hooked on stat building that I was. Like seeing stats and then looking at the green as it like increases and stuff like that. That was like, I got so into that I started to seek out different types of games that are very into stat building, like Dark Souls 2 I played for the first time just because I wanted to see my character go from like this really weak, one-hit killed, like pathetic looking creature to something like who can take down a boss in just a few hits. So that was a lot of fun, and I got to experience those types of games, Dynasty Warriors and whatnot. I can get really into those games because that's the type of feeling you get.
So you could say about Senran and Kagura, sorry to cut you off, you could say there's more to it than meets the girls' lives.
That's it. I mean, at the end of the day, it's girls who happen to have big boobs, and that's the kind of way I look at it. It sounds kind of silly, but it's like, oh, they're women. They just happen to have these giant racks, and that's about the beginning and the end of it when I look at it anyway. So, but other than that, I've been kind of stretching my time with some other games. Right now, I got Lords of the Fallen that I'm currently, covering.
How is
for
that?
the site.
As someone who's a big fan of the Souls games, it obviously has some sort of appeal to me because it looks very similar.
Oh yeah. Well, as a sadistic person that happened to play Dark Souls 2 with the mouse and keyboard,
God, you are
which
sadistic.
apparently some people.
You're just crazy.
I showed up at E3 and the guy had that set up. I was like, "Hey, I'll use this." And he's like, "Wait, you're like the first person whoever tried this." Trying to play the Dark Souls 2 story DLC at E3 was just like, the guy just looked at me funny. And then I proceeded to do what I always did at home in the comfort of my own room, of proceeding to fall down every single ledge that I got close to. Just dying.
Souls?
Not yet, but I plan to.
That is worse than the other ones in terms of falling off ledges and cliffs. That's like a lot of levels are designed around that.
I played about 2 hours of Demon Souls, and I died about 15,000 times. So I think the only time I had an easy was at the Tower Knight or whatever. I found a spot behind the stairwell, like just where I could like crouch down, shoot arrows, and pretty much like just bum my way through that entire fight. That's about it.
Valid tactic.
That was it. Lords of the Fallen, though, it plays like an easier Dark Souls or Demon Souls. I mean, it's not as difficult. It's got that same design, of course. Like you need to read a boss's or an enemy's their routines and stuff like that to kind of follow along and see what they're going to do next. That tell, what they call it, that tell it feels a lot more obvious than in the Souls games. Like you can more readily tell that this person's going to swing his sword around a bunch of times and then he's going to stop, and at that point that's when you want to attack, or he's going to do this big lunging move that's going to leave him open for at least
so it's a lot more rigid
in
that aspect. Like in Dark Souls, sometimes that you see like an enemy do their big swing or a big wind up, they do their hit. Sometimes they have a follow up, or sometimes they don't. Right? And is Lords of the Fallen more? It will always be this.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, it's like with the Soul, when I played Dark Souls 2, I was playing like a mage character. So it was like, I was more in the back, just attacking like whenever I could. So I wasn't as up close and personal like Lords of the Fallen. Lords of the Fallen has magic and stuff like that, but obviously towards the beginning, you're mostly just up close with melee and things like that. I mean, my character, which you start off the game kind of briefly customizing it, like choosing there's like a template kind of layout where you choose like a specific type of character that you want. You want a defensive or an offensive or a balanced character, and then do you want to use this type of magic or this type of magic? So I ended up building like this cleric who favors defensive moves because I figured, hey, I want to live longer, so I might as well and have this magic that's good about distracting the enemy, or at least trying to throw them off a bit. And so like I had a move where I could set up this trying to think of the word. It's like I'm trying to think what's the word I'm trying to think of. It's like a decoy. Okay. A decoy. I set him up a decoy, and so he just goes after that, and I start attacking behind him. But the whole control scheme is very similar to Souls games. It's like you're trying to wait until he's about to swing, and then you roll out of the way to get around him, and then swipe them on the sides or in the back. It has like the hit in the back. You get like the
critical hit or the backstab or something.
The critical hit, yeah. Exactly, the backstab move and stuff like that, which more times than not can be like a one-hit kill if you're smart enough. But obviously with the harder enemies, just like in Souls 2 and whatnot, it's not always a one-hit kill. A lot of the time it's just get them really weak and stuff. But it's very much that same game design for sure.
How are you playing it? I haven't played PC or PS4? Okay.
PS4. And it looks amazing. Like, it's pretty damn good. Like, if you watch the tech demos for, like, Unreal Engine 4, for example, it's up there. And it's a proprietary engine. Like, the company made it in-house. Because they wanted to make an engine that... And this is... I already did, like, an article on the site. 2 articles in the past, actually. Basically saying that they wanted to make an engine that they could easily mold to whatever they needed it to do. And so with Lords of the Fallen, you can definitely see it. A lot of the things look great, like a lot of the the flames and stuff like that. It just every single part of it, like a lot of the particle effects and whatnot, it looks really, really good. And I was going to say is that I haven't gotten that much into it, but seeing other people's reactions to that game, I definitely I can see that there people are respecting the care that went into it, especially coming from a company that's been known for its budget titles that hasn't, been that great. So seeing like City Interactive, and it's got the Witcher 2 producer Tomas Goff behind it, and so it's got the pedigree. And from what I've played so far, it's really good. It's got that same thing where everything's a big unknown, and you got to unravel the mystery of the world as you play by reading. Like, it's got like these audio books, kind of like BioShock, where you pick up something and then you start hearing someone's voice talking about something. It's kind of silly.
I'd love to see how the Souls games would be so much different if that's what happened every time you picked up a piece of gear, or you picked up a piece of equipment or some sort of item, where instead of just reading the description's just told to you by someone.
The voice acting in those Souls games are pretty good, so I wouldn't mind it so much. So.
But as someone who really likes the series, and I'm eagerly anticipating Bloodborne, I would probably like Lords of the Fallen.
Oh yeah, I think. But like I said, it's kind of hard to pass judgment when I'm not that much into it. So I'll of course have a review up on the site pretty soon, and then so we're trying to cover more of the Western style games because obviously we've been so. It's been mostly Japanese RPGs out this year, so it's kind of hard not to, have that. So we got that. Alex is working on Dragon Age Inquisition. He's got his review copy he got a few days ago, so we'll have some of that stuff very soon. But from what I've seen, Lords of the Fallen's pretty cool, and I look forward to playing that. Other than that, I played Ornor Surge, which reviews up on the site. Loved it. Liked the soundtrack a lot. It's one of my favorite soundtracks in years, so... check that out if you guys like it. So, well, moving on. And so, Adam, are you back?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Like things didn't kill you.
No. It's on Halloween, too. It's like someone's out to get me.
Oh, gosh. Did they cut the power? Did the car crash into the telephone pole?
My internet provider actually seems to be out now, but I'm on mobile network. It seems to be working. So...
yeah, it works just fine.
So what did I miss? Just you guys talking about what games you've been playing?
Well, yeah, we got through ours, and apparently yours got cut off right when you were about to talk about Lightning Returns. So what's your feeling on Lightning Returns?
Returns, I know it didn't get, stellar reviews. They're actually quite the opposite when it released. And I remember in another podcast in the past, David was playing it, and all he really said was, this is a weird game. And... I would have to agree with that. It's a weird game, the way that it's structured. Now, I kind of like the idea on paper. You can basically, when you start up the game, you're basically given, all right, here's the world map, and here are 4 different places you have to go to, but you can do whatever you want. So go out and do it. And your goal is to, I guess, there's like a main mission in each of these 4 locations, as well as a bunch of side missions. But I didn't realize how much of a focus there is on doing these side missions and quests, talking to NPCs, collecting items, gathering, killing enemies. And it just after a couple of hours of doing that, it just started to get really mundane and tedious. It's just...
It seems kind of funny because it seems like in the first game people were upset that it was so straight and narrow, but it seems like in Lightning Returns it's way more open-ended, like it's up to you as the player to do what you want to do.
Now, I don't have anything against side quests, but that's kind of what this game is focused on entirely. Is
it side quest the game?
No, it is. And
supplement to 13's complete lack of side quests.
I mean, I don't know who's familiar with Xenoblade, but I know Xenoblade got a bit of criticism for its side quest design, and I kind of feel like that this is the same, kind of focusing in on that, kind of what it didn't need to do. The progression is weird because fighting enemies does not give you, any sort of experience of any sort. Right.
Really?
So what I find, you use these points. I don't remember what they're called exactly, but they're EP, and
extra points.
Something I don't know.
Easter points.
And you can use these to slow down time. And the reason why you want to slow down time is because the whole game's on a timer, right?
Well, it's Majora's Mask. That's right. I forgot about that part.
So
I remember, she's the savior.
Yeah. So, but the easiest, really the only way besides some rare item is to refill your EP to slow down time is to do battles. So that's kind of the point to doing battles is so that you can slow down time so you can do more quests. So it's like you're doing quests and then I need to slow down time, so I'm going to fight a battle so I can slow down time to do more quests. And the whole structure is just very weird. So I guess what I'm getting at is I kind of agree with what David, or I kind of see what he was getting at, is that it's very unorthodox, which, I guess it's unique in that sense, but it just doesn't work very well in terms of being interesting. I think in RPGs, the progression, of characters and of the gameplay is important, and I kind of feel like Lightning Returns just throws that out the window for this.
So, how big of it, not to cut it too short, but it's how has it been going from where you're playing a group to a single character like that? Because I'm gonna eventually I want to play Lightning Returns, but that dynamic.
I mean, the Final Fantasy ATB system, your characters, it's not truly turn-based. Yeah, active time battle. I'm babbling. Okay. Your characters wait and have a cooldown before they can move again, right? So instead of 3 different characters, you now have 3 different schema for Lightning that all have individual ATBs. So how that works is if you have a fire, a blizzard, and a thunder schema, let's just say, you can use your fire one, and then it runs out of points, and then you have to switch to another to allow your fire schema to refill. And so you're kind of just switching between these costumes basically all the time. But that's kind of how it I guess emulates an ATV type system with characters. But
so it's just like playing 3 characters, but it's just Lightning. Right. That's it.
Right.
That's the difference.
Now, I feel like it kind of misses, one part about parties and RPGs is that you want to coordinate, different units to work together, and now you don't, I guess you sort of coordinate schema because you want to make sure, you have your elemental, bases covered, and so you can, yada yada. But it just kind of it still feels just kind of awkward having the one person there at all times. But I guess this is how it is.
I'm surprised that they've decided to do something similar with Final Fantasy 15. I know that's the biggest criticism, or what everyone's preemptively upset about, that you can only play as Noctis and nobody else.
That's kind of what I was getting to. Yeah, it's my feeling towards that, and it seems just like with Lightning, it seems like I guess they're having difficulty telling the story, but okay, this is going to sound very, I'm probably exaggerating quite a bit. it seems like they're having difficulty trying to build a story for an entire cast of characters, so they're trying to narrow it a little bit to make it easier for them to tell the story of a single character, so they don't have to do it. I mean, that kind of throws it off like Type 0, of course, but like, I wonder what came to be that they decided to start focusing in on a single character like that.
Well, I mean, I don't think it's inherently a bad idea, but I think specifically with the ATB system of Final Fantasy is known for, it's a little weird. But, you know, like the Kingdom Hearts games have, most of them have only...
Yeah, I mean, and to be fair, it's like they could still tell the stories of these other characters, you just can't control them.
Like the main Kingdom Hearts games have only one playable character, and, you know, I don't think it's a common criticism to say Kingdom Hearts only has one character, so that's an issue. There might be other issues, of course. So
yeah, the combat system's pretty bad. That's about it.
But so I guess I don't want to preempt. You know, I don't want to preempt. You know, before the game actually we even get a chance to try it and see how it works. But it does seem kind of. I mean, did they ever announce that the cast would be playable before, or was that just kind of assumed? I don't remember.
I think it was an assumption because you saw gameplay of them helping out Noctis in combat, and they had like the chain moves, or they do some sort of team up attack, and I think that's why people kind of associate with that.
Yeah, and plus, you know, there have been recent Square RPGs with more multiple characters, so like Type 0. So
yeah, exactly, the exact opposite almost in this case.
I think people are also really excited to play a 4-person party for the first time in a while, right? Because you can really flesh out exactly like who you want to do what when you have that many players or that many characters. But I think it's frustrating that it's like you have 4, but you could only do things with the 1.
That's what's kind of bumming me a little bit. It's just because I like having that type of, you know, variety. Like if I'm only going to have this one character, I hope that they're going to let me do a lot more with them, because I don't like the idea that I'm kind of focused on this one, like, all-around character, I guess it's going to wind up being. It's like, I want to, you know, make this character the way I want, build up this other character to be my, you know, my tank and all that kind of stuff.
I said this in the last podcast 2 months ago now. One of the things I actually quite enjoy about the Tales series, and Tales is really a 2,
bring that up
included, is that you have 9 playable characters, and they're all, you know, quite different. And I actually enjoy a lot just trying out the different characters with the different play styles, and, you know, that variety is interesting to have.
You don't want 4 like black mages. You can't do that in this kind of game anymore.
And, you know, it's just interesting to try them out and to see how they work and to fit them together. So Final Fantasy 15 only has 1 playable character, but I hope there's, you know, some way that you can, you know, tailor Noctis, you know, to suit maybe a variety of play styles instead.
That'd be cool.
So
yeah, and speaking of which, that's probably why. I mean, you can easily see that's pretty much why they're doing it. It's the play style. It's because if we're going to have this character do all these crazy looking combos and chain links and stuff like that, they need to be able to only let you control this one character, because how are they going to do these crazy moves if you're switching around to different characters and stuff like that? It's like, are we going to make it that complicated where it's like, okay, I got to switch over to this guy and get him really close, switch over to Noctis again, get him really close, and then do this move and whatnot. That I can kind of see why they want to avoid that, especially after, you know, Tabata talked about how it's like, we're going to make this easy to play.
Yeah, they said they're going to streamline it in terms of the combat, which, you know, a lot of people were seemed to be very hesitant to that. Like, wait, what do you mean you're going to make it streamlined? Like,
streamline's also often associated with easy, though,
right?
Which I think is what people were freaking out.
It's the same then when they talked about the Soul series, like, we're streamlined. It's like, oh no, but at the same time, it's like, how streamlined is a turn-based RPG? Like, it's that whenever people bring that up about oh no, it's streamlined, it's like, well, you know, with traditional RPGs, it was, you know, choose an option, hit X. You know, it's not like it's that scary. I think it's more that they're going so into this action RPG area, and then one of my big problems with Final Fantasy 13, even if I still think the combat system is kind of cool, it's that you had this illusion of control and maneuverability, but honestly, it was having difficulty lining up. Like, okay, you need to get Fane. You need to get over here. Get in front. Stop. No, get here. Okay, now the boss is gonna do this area of attack, and I'm screwed.
So I guess that leads to like, I wonder what control you have over setting like party AI and things like that. We don't know.
Oh, I hope it's not the game. Oh my god, I hope it's not the game. I freaking hate that system so much.
I remember reading something somewhere that like enemies in Final Fantasy 15 use a system derived from Gambit.
Well, it's the enemies use it. That's okay. It's when like I can understand like if this person's health is low, if my frenemy is health is low.
So we can't control the other party members whose names I forget, like Ignis and Gladiolus or whatever.
Even add names at this point.
Yeah, they have names. I don't remember which is which.
They do have names.
I kind of just said Noctis or just the guy that looks like Cloud, kinda. That's kind of how I identified with them.
Yeah, but there's got to be some way.
Big guy.
There's got to be some, auxiliary way to, to coordinate them somehow. At least I hope so. I mean, even Kingdom Hearts had some basic, controlling Donald and Goofy in those games. You had some control over what they're doing.
I'd imagine.
So it's just there's a lot of context to this, to that we don't know yet. That the demo will hopefully flesh out.
And it's like, what happens when Noctis dies in battle? Like that's the kind of the other thing. Like I was like, how's the game gonna be like when Noctis falls in battle? Like how are they gonna? I assume like they're gonna be quick to try to revive you, but if you're all by yourself and there's no Phoenix Downs or anything like that, like how's the rest of the people gonna perform that? Because like the AI has to be really good. It's when I hate this like the loss of control. It seems. That's the kind of thing I never had a good time with. And it seems like when you're going to have some of the more tougher boss battles, especially when you see like some of the big creatures you could fight in that game, it's like when you lose Noctis, it's like how is the friend AI going to be in that game? It makes all it more important.
I might be wrong, but I think that the preliminary reports say that if Noctis dies, it's just a game over screen, and they've done that in previous Final Fantasies as well. Like 4, they did it with Cecil.
Right. That's how it was in 13.
Yeah.
If your playable unit died.
That's right. I hate that. That's like the worst part of old RPGs was if your main character dies, even the times you control your party, like if your main person dies.
Oh, sorry.
That's in Persona.
That is the most frustrating to me.
That's right. I forgot about that happened in Persona.
At least both Shin Megami Tensei 4 took that out completely.
I think only the Persona series has that problem.
Yeah, but Persona 4 did add some things to make it friendlier, like if your social link was high enough before taking a fatal hit, one of your party members would jump in for you and things like that to try to mitigate it a little bit.
Just real friends ought to do.
Gotta upgrade that social link,
Your friends are your true friends if they will die for you.
That's how you know which one of your friends is the main character.
They'll take a bullet for you. That's when it happens. And you're like, you just got to know this person, you barely know them, you had lunch with them on the rooftop, and all of a sudden they want to take a bullet for you.
They are willing to die for you.
Okay. That's pretty extreme. When I'm not related to you.
In all fairness, though, you are the guy with all the revival beads and breads and whatnot. You are the guy that can bring them back. So maybe that's why they want to be friends with you.
And like, is the other characters, are they just gonna have magic? Are they gonna have their own like items and equipment that they change? Like, do you have to physically like give this person this piece of like armor or sword or whatever, and they're going to equip it immediately? Is it like dot hack or something? You just got to give it away, and you leave and come back later, and they have
Just based off what I've seen of the game or what I've heard, it sounds like the AI and the party members are just not important. It seems like it's all going to be dependent on you, Noctis's actions, and what the AI does in the battle or what your teammates do almost seems irrelevant.
Well, like. I know it's it's been several years now, and it's been rebooted and relaunched and whatever. But like I know Kingdom Hearts because I know it was Versus was originally the Kingdom Hearts team, right? And of course it's all changed now. But like the AI in those games is not well praised. Now I know it's been a long time, but like if the other characters behave anything like Donald and Goofy, that's not good.
Keep casting heals. Stop it, Donald. Stop casting heals.
I used Kiraga when I only just got hit once.
God damn it. He wasted all magic. I ran out of feathers.
And you just never give him items, ever.
No, you never do, because he's going to just waste them all.
Yeah, one thing that disappointed me a little bit about the TGS gameplay for Final Fantasy 15 was that there was a giant monster and then a bunch of little ones, like little goblins that came out, and it looked a lot like Dynasty Warriors or Hyrule Warriors with the moblins and stuff. It was just like there were a lot more enemies than you're usually facing, because in Final Fantasy you're usually facing like a set number of like maybe 5 or 6 maximum ever, but like instead you're just fighting all these like little creatures around you, and then everyone else in your party is doing the same. So, like, I hope that... I really feel like a lot does hinge on the party AI. I would actually kind of prefer something like Gambits to what they have in Kingdom Hearts.
As long as you don't, like, wait till the end of the game to get the good stuff, then it's probably not going to be as big a deal.
Well, I mean, like, hopefully, the enemy encounters are, interesting, and I hate to bring it up, I haven't even played it, but, like, in Dark Souls, from what I've seen, every encounter is, has an interesting, hook to it and how you defeat an enemy, rather than just killing bunches of goblins over and over and over again. So,
I don't think 15 will be anything like Dark Souls, unfortunately. Well, I would love for it to be like Dark Souls.
Perhaps
it's the Dark Souls of Final Fantasy.
Perhaps for example, I just mean like hopefully when you encounter an enemy and you have to take it on, hopefully there's a little bit more to it than just whack at it until it dies.
Yeah, I get what you mean.
And on the flip side,
I was
Katie,
going to say, it does seem like all of the encounters are really interactive. So, like, the stuff they just revealed today in the active time report is that you can fight, like, everything. You could fight the wildlife, like birds and, like, bunnies and whatever's running around.
Exactly. Bird.
Every gamer's dream come true. Kick the chickens.
Can you run over the birds with the car? It's just like straight up real life.
That's the thing that bothers me the most about the game.
It's the car that seems to like float on air. It's like a hovercraft.
How much of the game is going to be this road trip?
I bet that your car is going to become your airship.
Maybe does the car count as another
pretty much it's a vehicle?
Well,
the Doom buggy.
No, apparently gas stations are like a huge part of this game. That's like really incredible.
What is that?
You go to another thing they revealed.
Do you have to like gas up? Do you run out of gas?
They're speculating that you do, but you can go to gas stations. You can eat there, and you can gather information like from the waitresses.
God, it's a bar. It's like a bar in this.
I am now even more iffy on the whole car.
Final Fantasy, everybody.
It's like are they mitigating the gas or something like that? Like,
do you drive around looking for the cheapest gas spot in the game? Like.
Oh, you're trying to like running on fumes for a bit. They're like saying like, "Oh man, I can make it. I can make another few miles. So don't worry, I can't stop here. We need to get to the next place. Come on, we can't stop here."
And then you have to fight to the next gas station. So you just like walk 2 miles to get like a tank of gas and walk back.
Does your car like break down? You got to call the tow truck, the Final Fantasy version of the tow truck to come out and get you.
You got to get a Arbor to come pick you up.
There you go. Do you have like a chocobo, and then all of a sudden, like, you're broken down in the side of the road, like, he comes driving up. That's his character. He's a gas attendant. He's a gas attendant. He's the guy. He pumps your fuel for you.
So, what do these chocobo breeders think about cars taking over the world?
There you go. All of a sudden, that's the rebel faction
to arise in this game.
That's
the chocobo breeders. Can't put up with this anymore.
Underground, like the farmers. Looks like the farmer from Final Fantasy VII. He's come back and he's pissed off. It's like, got all this grass all seed. I'm sick and tired of your. God damn it.
Also,
if that becomes the game, I mean, if that's you could bet that's a side quest.
Speaking seriously now, it does seem that is, I guess, the angle they're kind of going for in terms of like tonality, at least initially. Like, it's just a group of friends, like hanging out, and that's literally the angle that the game will seemingly start with, which I guess, usually in RPGs your party isn't so acquainted with each other when you get started. In this case, they are. So
well, they did some of those things where it's like, they got out of the car, they stretched their limbs, or when they ran too far, everyone was exhausted. They were just like dragging their legs, like, oh, I ran so far. It's like,
well, even on the new Final Fantasy 15 website, the key image is literally like them grilling out outside, like tailgating almost. It's like, okay.
So I wonder if that actually has a physical, like you pull stuff from your
car is your fat chocobo, where you put your extra inventory.
That's it all in the trunk.
I was gonna say, is that the fat chocobo? You're gonna grill a chocobo? is that what you're gonna lead to? Chocobo meat, drumsticks?
Well, I think they're trying to add like another layer of realism to the game, right? So apparently, if you don't sleep, then you're like too tired to like fight as effectively. So I guess you have to like eat regularly and like.
If this is going to be like, it's like a Grand Theft Auto thing, like you eat too much, you get fat, and you have to like burn it off by running around or fighting enemies. I don't know if I want that type of like.
That almost sounds like Final Fantasy meets Fable, and that sounds horrifying.
I don't know if I want that type of like that, strictness about it. Like it's like hopefully that doesn't get in the way of the fun. Like it sounds cool, but it's like I hope it doesn't get in the way of it.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was going to say, it sounds really cool in theory. You're like, yeah, that makes perfect sense. Like, if I don't rest, I won't fight as well. But, like, once you actually get to it, it's sort of like when I first started playing, like, Zelda for the Wii, and I was just like, it makes sense that my arms would get tired if I keep hacking at things. But that, like, lessens my enjoyment of this video game.
Oh, boy, now this boss fight where I need precision cutting is really hard.
Or, like, it kind of reminds me, I don't know, Persona 3, where your characters get tired if you play too much, and it's just kind of a headache. It eventually just becomes annoying to deal with. I don't know.
At a point, it's like, it's like, hey, this is kind of cool, like the first few times, and then slowly becomes more and more aggravating until it's like, okay, this is really getting absurd. Yeah. I can't take this. I'm tired of having to deal with this every time it happens. Especially when you talk about 40-hour games.
Yeah, my assumption is that this game, once you get far enough into it, I assume it's going to become more of a typical Final Fantasy.
You beef up your characters, no longer tired.
No, I'm actually going back to this whole tonality thing, where okay. I assume once you kind of get past these introductory sections of the game, it'll become more of a Final Fantasy, narrative, and it's some grandiose, conflict and whatever. That's my assumption anyway. But
there's got to be an empire because there's always an empire.
But it's just playing like a prince, right? So there's all of that stuff going on.
He's against. Apparently, he's like he doesn't want to be the prince or something. He's like going against the
it's kind of got like
I don't want to be this princely prince. I want to be this fun guy who's traveling with his buddies.
That does not scream Noctis to me. Saying I want to be the fun guy.
I want to be the fun guy. I stick my tongue out and it's got...
I can't picture Noctis making that
I do think now RPG demos are usually oftentimes not very good for a variety of reasons.
I hate RPG demos. Yeah,
but Best 12 demo, everyone.
I don't even remember that. That was with what? That was with Dragon Quest 8?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, I do think getting a demo out is, it could be a good idea. Just to, so especially for a game that's just been in the pot for forever.
They're trying to sell Type Zero. That's basically what it is. Yeah, it's really they're just like with any time they hook a game in, it's like, well, no, people aren't really going to be sold on paying $60 for a remaster, so let's throw the demo in and pretend like it's we're trying to. Give this like Final Fantasy tax.
Yeah, everyone's joking that it's $40 for Type Zero and $20 for the demo.
I just can't. It's
or the low hanging fruit. $60 for the demo, and you get a free Type Zero with it.
That's pretty much what they say, and it's like Dragon Quest VIII is an amazing game, and it's like Final Fantasy 12. It was alright, I guess, but people flipped that too.
Just Dragon Quest is not as big in the West as it is.
No, it didn't sell that well here anyway, so it didn't matter. Fortunately, it was as amazing as that game is. But like with Type 0, we didn't, of course, since we didn't do a podcast in September, we didn't talk about 15, we didn't talk about Type 0, but that game looks fun. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say I wouldn't really like to play it. I'm actually more interested in Type 0 than I am in 15 by a long shot, just because 15 looks like, I don't know, I'm still not sold on it, but Type 0 looks fun, especially with all the different people that you can play as.
Yeah, who would have thought having playable characters is a cool thing?
Let's bring that.
Your choices, it's great.
Yeah, I mean, I know Type 0, it's mostly the Crisis Core team, the original game.
Yeah.
So,
I like how you're hooking it back to the teams every time we bring up a game. It's like the Kingdom Hearts team, right? The Crisis
It's just, the one thing I'm most hesitant about is like, okay, so there's like a mission structure, right? And you have, you're going to go on these missions to do things, and I wonder how that's going to feel, as a console game rather than a portable game. I don't know, just...
As someone who's played this, I can give you a little bit of clarity on that.
Mm-hmm.
So you're very much, the mission structure is strictly for just an order or doing side quests like that. It's still a very like an open world. You're free to go to different towns and do stuff like that, or travel across the overworld and do what you will. But the missions are more of, start the next story thing, go here. It's like more like how Peace Walker handles it, except instead of going to Mother Base, you're in a big open world that's kind of bland in the PSP version because it's a PSP game. So hopefully they expand upon that more.
To be honest, I doubt they will, just because of how it seems to be like they're trying to get people to buy the new consoles for 15, so it's like a means to an end. But to mention about the overworld stuff, like how much stuff can you actually do in the overworld stuff versus just doing the missions?
Most of the overworld stuff that you're required to do for a mission is actually like a weird pseudo RTS thing where you're taking over cities. That's a whole thing, because it's a whole war. It's Final Fantasy war, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, though, it's like old overworld maps and RPGs and stuff like that. You're still kind of traveling in a tunnel, because it's like you got to go to this place specifically to do this mission. It's like you're not really going to run around. It's like, what are you going to do? Like,
where it's very much you need to go to this town to start this mission to progress the story or do this. But there's still the openness that it doesn't feel like that. You feel like you have other options.
Like, it's, my memory's kind of foggy, but, I mean, again, I'm thinking back to Crisis Core. Basically, it was purely missions. Like, that's all it was. So this sounds like it's a little different.
Yeah.
So...
I mean, there's been some great games that have followed that same type of structure, and so it's not like it's immediately off-putting or something like that. But it's like you said, it's like, how does that translate?
Well, I mean,
to
like if I'm playing
my
portable, like when I'm waiting for something, or if I'm just killing time, I can more easily just kind of kill time by doing maybe slightly repetitive missions, perhaps, or just just kind of killing time. But when when I get home and just sitting down to play a console game, I don't know if I have the same sort of patience for that. But I don't mean to be pessimistic. I just I'm just kind of curious more how it's going to work.
Well, if you're curious, you can always check out the PSP version. There's a translation out for that.
No, I just decided to play Lightning Returns instead.
Or you can use your Vita and remote play, and that's the Vita version right there. You're going to be satisfied with the people who are sad that it didn't. There you go. As long as you own a PS4 and a Vita, then you got
$600 and the other $60 to play Type 0, you can have your portable version.
Everyone's happy. That's really, everyone got what they wanted.
Yeah, but
now about that PC version, though.
It'll just be announced 4 years later.
Yeah.
Well, just like you said, Zach, like the most interesting aspect of the game, I think, the thing I'm most curious or interested in really is the multiple playable characters, because they all seem to play quite differently. So it's one of those.
I like the look.
Yeah,
I like the design. It seems more mature. It doesn't seem like all.
It kind of
the opening cutscene. It sets the tone perfectly.
I've heard that.
I kind of appreciate that. It's like on one hand, it does kind of look like anime high school, but it seems like the tonality is a lot.
Like rookies.
Well, it seems like it's a lot more mature than most anime high school type trophy things.
I was really worried when I first saw it that it'd be like kind of like a battle royale, like, oh look, they're in like school uniforms and they're fighting. But like after seeing the most recent trailer, the Enter the Fray one, it was just really good, and it set that sort of dark tone, and it also showed that there are like much bigger stakes than it's sort of like a high school battle anime would be, right? There's like these 4 kingdoms and they're at war and you're like really integral to fighting that war. I actually like just got excited about it basically after seeing that trailer.
I got a great comparison on that note. So like you were saying, it does have it is a high school setting, but it's more focused on the war aspect, which is like a complete opposite of Valkyria Chronicles 2, which is this war setting, but it's all about the high school.
Yeah.
It's like the opposite of that. It's like if I'm thinking about it now, it's actually crazy.
It seems to be like rookies at a military academy. It's kind of what I was seeing it as. But like that, I mean, I haven't seen too much, but it's because when I really want to play a game, I don't really watch too much about it, just because I want to kind of go in there fresh and new. But from what I saw of the Tokyo Game Show trailer that they premiered, I have not seen the End of the Fray one yet, but from that one, I liked the idea of having different characters. They did do some visual improvements with the console version. Apparently, like they added some blur effects and stuff like that.
Apparently, the lighting is actually like the similar lighting to what's used in Final Fantasy 15, or it's something like they transported over, like just that specifically. I might be wrong. But yeah, the lighting, I know they've been on and on about how that's the big improvement over the PSP version.
It does look, and the fights looks way more hectic and more intense. It looks fun, and I like the idea of having all these different characters. It seems like a nice contrast to what you typically see coming out. It's like, as you said, like coming from the team of Crisis Core, a game that was held in pretty high regard based on how modern Final Fantasy games are normally, appreciated. And seeing that and then taking it to Type 0 and then seeing it blown up to the big screen. I'm kind of that's where my appeal for that series is now kind of pointing towards, more than the big old console releases where they seem to pump way too much money into. It kind of loses its charm a little bit, and I think that you can kind of see that more.
It does look as
right
probably as good as you would possibly expect a PSP to PS4 Xbox One transition to be.
But is it $60 worth?
Yeah.
Yeah, even from what I've seen of it, it very much looks like it still plays the same. Right. It has the same control scheme. It looks prettier, and it looks like it has a much higher frame rate. But yeah, and it doesn't have multiplayer now.
It's hard to describe why, but the environments, I mean, not talking about like textures, but the actual geometry of the environments, the spaces that you play in do seem kind of PSP-esque as well.
Oh yeah, they're very much corridor.
I didn't know they removed the multiplayer.
Yep.
Why? That was actually sounded pretty cool in the original one.
It's actually pretty neat because you can have other people play as other party members, and you can do all that. And there's missions that were exclusive for it. It's actually a really neat feature, and you could jump into someone's game and help them out.
I was kind of excited for that because I wanted to try it out because I heard it was pretty fun.
Then they would have to justify it being a $60 game.
Exactly. That would justify it. Oh my gosh!
I should be awesome.
Well, I'll wait for it to be on sale or something.
Or you just play the PS3 version, which does have that.
Because I, to be honest, I think RPG demos are the worst. They're a very bad way to tell this. I mean, I don't care if Final Fantasy 15's demo is supposed to be this is supposed to kick off the game. Same thing with Bravely Default. It's really difficult. People were so turned off on some of the other demos, like Ni no Kuni. Just from impressions about the demo, I was like, oh, this might be bad. And I play it, I love it.
Well,
and it's to get a sense of a game like that's supposed to be that long in such a small.
I mentioned earlier that one of the key things in RPGs is kind of the progression from beginning to end. And I don't mean story. I mean how your party builds and how your characters and abilities and things like that. And you just don't see that in a demo.
You get to know the characters and stuff like that, but they cut it off in a demo.
A lot of the context is just kind of missing.
none of it stays. It's not like an action game where it's like, well, I pretty much get what this game's like now, but it hooks itself on the story, and it's really hard to get.
I think
that
the best thing,
even if
I
it's
think
like
the best thing that you can do with an RPG demo is to make it a separate thing, but that still has all the mechanics of that. So maybe like make it like a before the actual game kicks off. This is like a thing that happened and they did.
That's like, even then, it's kind of hard because I want to get to know these people, and I feel like I'm missing something
Bravely
if I don't.
Sort of did that. I mean, it was just kind of a separate thing.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about though. Is that it's like that sounds cool. I mean, if it's just like for me, like if it's just a battle demo or something, then I'm okay with that. Personally, I just if anything, if they include anything a story related to it, it's like when I watch. Say, like, I missed out on a series. It's like, I missed an episode that, like, I watched the first episode, missed the second, and now I'm like, well, the rest of the show's going. I'll wait until the whole season's out before I just sit there and play it all. That's the kind of thing I get. Like, I'd rather sit through a whole game rather than just, start it off and like, well, I guess I'll wait about a year and a half until the game actually comes out or something.
You know what was the worst RPG demo I've played or experienced? Tales of Vesperia.
What was that?
So
I remember that one.
Oh yeah, that one. That and Tales of Grace's Death.
I don't remember. Tales of Vesperia, just to be concise, like it kind of throws you into this location. The cutscenes play just like they do in the main game, but you have no context to what's going on at all. So, and they actually bring up like one of the in-game, jargon is Blastia, and you have like no idea what anyone's talking about. And then
like I'm the weird one. What?
You go through the small area, and then you fight this boss that's like ridiculously overpowered. They buffed him up for the demo for some reason, and he just was and he was frustrating, and it's just like there was like nothing good about that demo at all.
I think that was like I played the Japanese demo for Tales of Vesperia. I still own it, and I know exactly what you're talking about. It's like this weird like forest area or something like that.
One of the hardest boss fights in the normal game too.
Yeah, they toned him down in the game, but he's still like a spike in difficulty for some reason. It just kind of feels weird.
Hey kids. It's funny because in E3 demos, when you go to see it, they overpower your character.
The worst part of it is, like after you like finally take on this boss after like 5 times of trying, one of your character remarks, "That was easy." It's like, oh, shut up.
Shut your face. But in like E3 demos, they level your character to like a high level, like at least level 20 in a level like low level area, so that way people don't get turned off like, oh, I hate this game, I suck at it. And like, why would I want to play this anymore? Like, I don't get why that Vesperia demo would exist like that. That's for sure.
Well, at E3 they also want to get as many people to play the demo as possible. So if you can kill them in one hit, you could just come on, move on to the next person.
Like, all right, move on. Exactly.
I feel like a lot is riding on the Final Fantasy 15 demo though, because everyone's been so impatient and this game has been in production for so long that they just want to like sort of prove at this point, hey, we're actually working on this game. We promise. We have things to show for it. Like it's
seeing the roller coaster of emotions people have.
I do think while we've talked about problems with RPG demos, really, players do need to kind of go into the mindset like, okay, this isn't the finished full product. This is just a demo. So that is right.
That's the problem too.
And it frustrates me when everyone's like, well, the demo is proof that they're like this far along in the game, and it's like, no, it's not. There's just
they signed up these voice actors. Apparently, it's almost done. It's like I don't think that means anything.
People might make arguments. I'm just speaking hypothetically here. Like, well, the demo wasn't very good, so the game is probably going to be awful. It's like,
doesn't hold up.
Well, that's the point, though. I mean, you can say that about any game.
Is what you're based off of. The only thing you have to base that from. But still, it's just like.
Like, one of my favorite games of all time, Asura's Wrath, has a bad demo. And when you play the main game, you're like, whoa, game is incredible. That demo, that didn't do it any favors at all. And so that's also what you kind of get from it. But, I think a lot of it's riding off that Final Fantasy 15 demo. But, at the same time, it's been kind of interesting seeing the reactions from people who are, totally into Final Fantasy 15, who really want it to come out. And, all the way to the other side of the field, people who, like, don't want it to succeed at all. They think it's going to be a big, massive failure. It's like, dude.
That's the Final Fantasy fan base in a nutshell, though. Half of them wanted to do really well, like, the other half just wanted to watch it crash and burn.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, it's like people who are so deeply in love with 15 and anything that comes out, like, they show 2 seconds more footage, it's super, and it's like, oh my god, it's like, they showed her face, and it's not the same character. It's like, honestly, it's like, I'll wait, and I can't wait to, like, you know, when it comes out, I'll play it and stuff like that. I'm kind of placid about it just because of how it's been, you know, handled and stuff like that. To be honest, it's like people get really upset with others when they see them not, you know, totally on board and in love with it. Well, it's like, you know, we've gone through this so many times. It's really hard.
It was sort of ridiculous how excited people were about the Tabata's active time report, which came out today, when all they really did was like, hey, look, it's people walking around for 10 minutes, right?
It was like the most, like, we'll have quests here and stuff like that. It's like, that's what all the people who make open world RPGs
I think sometimes, you know, some people are just like overly skeptical about everything, and it just kind of becomes, you know, tedious. But you know, like some people, like, they are, I just, like, looking at this exploration, I know they said they, like, cut out the events and the other things just to focus on the exploration, but I really do hope in this world that there's things to do that are more than just, you know, collecting or killing monsters. But
hopefully more than just catching up with Sid at the nearest gas station.
Yeah.
We're gonna bring that back around. I mean, it's as long as it has stuff to do, but at the same time, it's like, I'm not that committed to that, because honestly, the thing I don't really appreciate that much in open world RPGs is when all that extra stuff gets in the way of delivering a nice, focused main story, and you do all this other stuff, and then it kind of takes away, continues to take away from the focus of the main story, like the immediacy of it. And so it's like, the world's going to come to an end, but first, let's go over here and gas up to the nearest station. And, oh, man, we're really tired. It's been a long day. I don't know, guys. It's just like, and that's the kind of thing, like, I didn't mind so much how linear 13 was. It's that I didn't think they delivered a good story.
Some of the Tales games are actually like that, where it's like, there's the final boss. There he is. We got to take him on. Right, guys? Right. Oh, by the way, there's like 100 new side quests you can do. And then,
hey, by the way, you can just, you know, help out this person who needs to, like, fix the telephone. It's really going to take a while.
Yeah. Back off.
That's pretty bad. Yeah, we really work on that. It's really tough.
Tails cough.
Drink some water.
Just finished mine, actually.
But, and that's like, you know, the Elder Scrolls games and stuff like that, and GTA and stuff like that. They have that.
Go ahead.
I was thinking, like, the Skyrim's the only one I played, is if you were to do, like, all the extra content in Skyrim, it's like 100 hours or whatever. But, like, if you just stick with, like, the main, you know, storyline, you can beat it. Like, you're playing that for Extra Life, right?
Yeah, I'll be playing that.
But
for Extra Life,
I don't think the game is really that long if you totally ignore any of the side content, because there is kind of a lot of it.
And I think that Final Fantasy 15 is drawing a lot of comparisons to Skyrim, especially because, like, you know, they're trying to do this giant open world thing, and one of, like, I think Tabata's early comments that the only thing that's going to stop you from getting anywhere is the mountains, and now in today's demo, you could, like, see people, like, walking up the mountains all the way, and they're like, are you going to be able to jump them too, just like Skyrim? Like, yeah.
First of all, you can see dragons flying around, you can see, like, Bahamut, just like flying around and just take them down and just, I don't know. Are you going to, like, you know, find wild chocobo and just jump on them? They did say, I think, that the only thing you could really ride is the car, at least for the time being. Although looking at the chocobos, or did they say anything otherwise in the recent stuff about that, like the stuff, your mounts or whatnot?
No, all the Skyward Mount stuff is Final Fantasy 14 Heavensward, I think. Right now, you could just see a bunch of chocobos grazing. That's about it. That's as exciting as it gets.
I hope you get to raise a chocobo.
Obviously, Final Fantasy 13 was not known for its expansive areas, but, like, Final Fantasy 12, I know you were talking earlier about the Gambit system, but one thing I think it did actually fairly well were a variety of areas where there were some openish areas, but they weren't ridiculous. I was actually talking to someone earlier about this. The open areas in Final Fantasy XII were actually kind of a good size. They had that sense of scale without being like overbearing.
That's why the shift from 12 to 13 was so
maybe
shocking.
with the exception of the Sand Sea, where that one was that place was probably too big for its own good. But also Final Fantasy XII did have kind of a good variety of a lot of it more enclosed and more cramped areas as well, the mines and the tomb and all that. So I kind of everything in Final Fantasy 15, and it seems like this is where RPGs are going with like Xenoblade is like Xenoblade X and Xenoblade, like huge open wide areas. But I hope it's just not all these gigantic areas, you know.
Well, and the rumor is like Level 5 and other developers, probably CyberConnect 2 and stuff like that, they're working on an open world RPG as well. So it is the way things are going, and you can kind of see it because Skyrim sold tens of millions of copies, and so it's easy to see why, not tens, probably several, but you can kind of see that's the way things are going, and it's not like it's something to be like opposed to. Xenoblade 2 is going to be the exact same way, or Xenoblade Chronicles X, whatever the hell it's called. But at the same time, it's like it's nice, but you're slowly losing the appeal that I had with those earlier titles.
A lot of early RPGs or JRPGs, they were like dungeon based. You go into a dungeon and there's like, this map design of trying to figure out how to navigate the rooms or how to open that door, how to find that chest. I actually played Golden Sun, the GBA games earlier this year, and that's one thing I thought they did really well. And I think during the PlayStation 2 era, there was some 3D, kind of that translation to 3D environments and 3D dungeon type areas, and I don't think that should totally go away. But it seems like a lot of games are more focused on, be like Skyrim and these gigantic overworlds. So.
Well, Rogue Galaxy was pretty good.
Yeah, that had some great dungeons. I remember it was kind of long, but it had like those interconnecting giant towers. Was like the big dungeon in that game. It's kind of and sorry to I'm kind of rambling here, but I'm thinking about Final Fantasy or Lightning Returns. It has a lot of open areas, and it has some of these like dungeon areas as well, but they're basically just straight lines to the end. So it's kind of these two extremes that I hope they avoid, having straight lines like Final Fantasy 13, or just kind of these expanses with nothing to do. So. It's all about variety, which is one thing, like I said, I think Final Fantasy 12 did pretty well in that regard.
Okay, you were going to say something
I was going
earlier?
to agree with what he...
Hello?
Oh, I think with Katie, are we losing people like left and right here?
Oh, no.
Is that how it's going to be? Oh, yes. Well...
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes. Did we lose your mic? We lost you again. I think we're just slowly losing Katie. Just, mentally as well. Oh, well. So, moving on. I mean, so the variety, of course, is important as well. So it's nice to see that, they're going that way. I think another thing you can kind of point, not to, spend way too much time on the topic of open world versus, closed areas. It's like they haven't really proven themselves in that department yet about being able to make that world. It's like you can look at other people like The Witcher, with CD Projekt. It was like, well, they've been slowly building towards that for a while now. They made a very closed game with Witcher 1. Witcher 2 was way more open ended, but still didn't really have that feel that you would get out of an Elder Scrolls. And then 3, they're really trying to go for it, and so it's kind of hard to say it that way. So I don't know. That's kind of what I'm coming from on that. It's like the Final Fantasy people don't know if they can make that world that meaningful, but it'd be interesting to see what they can pull off. And that's also
just a hard thing to note in a demo, because a demo is only going to be one area or whatever. So this is another one of those things that demos just don't show very well.
Of course. Well, and so I'm trying to get back Katie for a moment here, but that's about it. I mean, other than that, I mean, there's been some other big news lately where it's
Valkyria
been
Chronicles coming out of nowhere.
Yeah,
announcing a PC version.
You can imagine that Sega's been working behind the scenes for a while to do that kind of. I'm sure they get a ton of requests for people to get ports and stuff like that, especially for a series that's it's been kind of dead for a few years.
Yeah, I mean, Valkyria Chronicles is a very kind of a surprise announcement in a good way. The franchise hasn't been seen over here since when did Valkyria Chronicles 2 come out? Like 2010? Yeah,
2010, I think, or here. 2009, 2011.
What do we know?
The original game was 2008. And so it's just been a while, and, the third title never came over, and then it just seemed like, well, that was it, And then out of nowhere, they announced that PC version, which not only is it great to have this game, available on another platform for more people to play, but just kind of just having the franchise mentioned in official press releases again is kind of nice to see. It's not...
Mr. Gallia, as soon as the Sega said, I'm like, oh my god, when you say it sounds so cool.
I know it wasn't that long ago, but it's almost kind of nostalgic. Man, Valkyria Chronicles, I love that game.
It's when you think about how long ago it was. I mean, so one of the things it didn't have was trophies, and it never got patched for that. It had medals, of course, in the game, and that was your version of the achievements. But it's when they announce Steve achievements and things like that, it doesn't sound like a big deal, but it's a cool thing to be able to give you a better excuse to go back and play that game again, especially because I played it fairly recently to complete.
Valkyria Chronicles is one of those games. It's it not only does it just do everything well, it does a lot of things pretty well, but it's just so unique. It's not really like anything else. In terms of how it plays, it's like a strategy RPG with a real-time element, and kind of in that setting with the watercolor style. It's just kind of this unique package, and it just everything works really well. The one game that it's probably most easily compared to is XCOM, but even then, that's not really doing it a service. It's because it's so different from XCOM too, and it's probably squarely in my top 5 for that generation of games for RPGs. It's just really solid.
Yeah, and especially when they've been talking about the things that the port's going to bring, 60 frames per second. If that's important to you, I mean, in that type of game, it's pretty nice because being able to see that action at a much quicker pace is pretty cool. And then also, being able to support higher resolutions, 720p, 1080p, all the way up to most likely 4K resolution and beyond. Just seeing what the Canvas engine can pull off at a higher resolution seems pretty awesome. I mean, you go back and see Valkyria Chronicles today, it still looks really damn good.
That art style helps a lot.
Exactly. It's like Wind Waker. It's going to age well perpetually, and so I'm excited to see what that would look like on a modern system. And apparently it's out on November 11th, so it's very soon. Yeah. And you hope that it kind of sets the pace to bringing Valkyria Chronicles 2 to the PC, and then eventually, God hoping they bring Valkyria Chronicles 3, because I did play that game. I did beat Valkyria Chronicles 3, the translated version, and I had an amazing time with it. It's almost as good, if not as good as the first one, especially with how they deliver in many of the departments, like the combat, the story, the look, the charm, everything about the third game is just as good as the first.
Yeah,
I did not play
the first game. It's a strategy RPG, and it's like I already said, it's got. I don't want to detail how you play it, but that real time aspect with the turns and the strategy elements, that all worked really well. But one other thing that was really nice about it was you didn't need to grind at all. It was a very friendly game on that regard in terms of you don't need to go out of your way to buff up your guys or anything like that. It had the class system where you can use any character from a class, and it basically all characters from that class will improve. So you don't have to stick with the core group of characters. You can kind of check out different units. and they each had like different bonuses. So it's kind of, and different personalities too. So it was kind of cool to see all these characters and use them. One thing.
Yeah, all the backgrounds. They had their own stories to tell.
And
it was pretty cool.
One thing that I like Valkyria Chronicles 2 in a couple of ways. Mainly, it had more classes. It had a little bit of a better balance between some classes, I think, except for the Fencer. There's a Fencer unit. It's like a physical unit that was really, really strong. But one thing about Valkyria Chronicles 2 that I did not like at all was it had a lot more elements where you do just kind of do random battles to progress the story and to collect items and things. Like literally, it was a calendar system like Persona almost. But in order to play the main mission, you had to do like X amount of just random missions to get there. And also, just like getting pieces for your tanks or weapons for your characters, you had to do kind of just extra battles to get them. Which I guess is, for a portable system, I guess that's maybe a little bit acceptable, but it was just kind of a big disappointment from the first one. Does Valkyria Chronicles 3 have that kind of structure at all?
I mean, it's got some of the same stuff. I mean, the maps are a lot bigger in 3 compared to 2, I've heard. I mean, it's pretty much, it's back up to, I wouldn't say it's up to the same size as the first game, but it's definitely, I've heard it's it's much bigger, so it's more easy to get into. They don't repeat, they do repeat maps and stuff like that, like the layouts, but it's not as oppressive. In 3, you definitely don't need to grind that much. There are like
just tell me one thing. In Valkyria Chronicles 2, I just remembered this. You get different, I forget what they're called exactly, but you get different class marks in battle, which allow you to change your characters to certain unit types. So like you'd have to, in order to get a Fencer unit, you'd have to find like a class mark in a battle to allow your character to become one. But it was totally random how you would get these.
It's like an item or pickup or something like that? Oh, no, I don't think they have that in this game.
I remember when I was playing, I wanted to get one of these on my team, but you have literally like no control over when you can use it. You just kind of have to hope when you finish a battle that it shows up in your spoils. So Valkyria Chronicles 3 has nothing like that?
No, definitely not. It's mostly been like upgrades to unlock this, or I think you can purchase it or something like that. It's you buy the weapon. Actually, you find the weapon or you buy the weapon that basically unlocks that class in the equipment. So it seems like I haven't really seen it like that, but it's definitely been it's definitely a much better game. I'm having a much better time with it. I had a great time with 3, and it felt like they did some amazing things. But the first game definitely is I would still consider the high mark. So I hope people go into it, play try it out. If they didn't give it a good shake the first time. It's one of those games that, like,
even if Japanese RPGs aren't your thing, like I still think it's very much worth playing because it is, like I said, just there's nothing else much like it, and it's just I think it's something that's got a little bit of a broader appeal. And just like I also said, having Sega paying attention to it in any way is kind of
small victory in its own right.
Right. It's just nice to see that it's not totally forgotten.
Yeah, and it's the fact that they're giving it that attention that it needs, and it's makes you hopeful that they're looking at the future of that series. Besides 1, 2, and 3, obviously moving up, because 3 apparently sold very, very well in Japan. Like it sold. I think it sold better than the first 2 combined. I don't know. It's probably going crazy with that number, but apparently it did extremely well in Japan, and so it'd be nice to see it make a return. So at least. Even if it's just in Japan, just to see it come back would be nice.
Can we do some sort of crazy deal where we give Square Enix back the Type 0 HD and instead we get Valkyria Chronicles 3 HD? I'd be willing to pay $60 for that.
I would, because it's a much bigger game. I mean, I'd pay tons of money. I mean, I wouldn't, I'm not going to sit here and start a precedent where it's like I'll pay $60 for a remaster.
I just want that game.
I paid $10. I paid $10 for Valkyria Chronicles 3 on the Japanese store. So it looks good. Yeah. Kitty, have you played Valkyria Chronicles at all?
I need to buy it today.
Oh, sure. I'll tell you right now again, you buy that game. No.
I don't know. I don't really want them to spend all their time doing HD remasters. I would like some new games, please.
That's actually been my kind of feeling too on the
Sega. I mean, I don't want to digress too much, but Sega right now seem to be going more into like a catalog style type business. You know, they really don't have much anymore. It feels like.
Their IPs. They did buy Atlas.
They have Atlas
so
now.
Maybe they'll help them make those games.
You know, they have Sonic, which
Sonic Boom.
looks really
for that show.
Yeah.
Saw that
but like, I don't know, Sega. That just kind of seems like the way they're heading is more like their pachinko and other arcadey type business, and then like more of a catalog type business, or they have lots of crossovers.
They said like, what was it like? Evangelion, a single pachinko Evangelion machine made more money than all the movies made combined. Yeah.
Ouch.
That's a person perspective. Put 10 of those machines in a room, and they are making bank. That's how they stayed afloat.
That's why Sega's not really having, that's why they're, right.
They're doing fine with Sammy.
Well, I feel like Square Enix has been doing the same thing, right? They're remastering. I think they're doing another Final Fantasy VII for the PC now. Everything's going to be on the PC and Android and iOS. That's going to just bring in the money.
I mean, right? it's only a matter of time before like Final Fantasy V and VI both now have mobile versions. I'm pretty certain those are probably going to head to PC. Just like Final Fantasy IV.
Yeah, and speaking of which, I mean, we didn't really touch on
the
this.
13 series.
Besides introducing a couple, they also introduced a couple of cloud services, OnLive and Shinra, which is, this impressive government figure. It's like, why would you want to name yourself after that? And they're getting help from Avalanche Studios, which is the most funniest thing that you put that in the headline. It's like instant hilarity. Just hearing Avalanche is helping Shinra. It's like, wow. The 13 series coming to PC. 13 is already up on Steam, and then 13.2 and Lightning Returns will be out in 2015. So it's pretty amazing, and all the Dragon Quest games are going to be on
phones,
are being localized here once a month. So we already got the first two. The third one coming out later in November.
That's the first time the English version of that of the Super Nintendo version has ever been available officially in English.
Yeah.
That's amazing, and well, it's like I wonder how those. I've never played the mobile version.
And
they're fine, but I would rather have it on anything else.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Dragon Quest VII for 3DS is just.
People keep telling me about that stuff. It's like every time I mention news, they're like so bummed out, and I know what they feel. It's like, but that game was. I played some of 7. That game it's 100 hours. Just to beat the game, like normally, just not doing any side content, just to beat that game. It's 100 hours, so I can understand why Square Enix is like, guys, this is a lot. We got these other games. We got Dragon Quest. Well, Heroes is with Omega Force, but it's like they got all this stuff. It's like Square Enix is bleeding money. It's like,
has Dragon Quest Heroes been announced for a localized release or no?
No.
No, not yet. But the silver PS4 apparently sold out like very quickly, so it's
That's
like,
one way
why
to
not?
PS4
Why wouldn't they?
In Japan, just slap Dragon Quest on it.
Yes, you'll see the numbers go up next time you see the sales, the charts. But yeah, I mean, I hope for that. I hope that they do consider what they've got. And apparently, there's a teaser site that just went up that it's like. Recent, there's in the URL, it's a teaser site. Apparently, it's going to be revealed in about a week because there's a countdown on it. In the URL, it says Densetsu, like Seiken Densetsu, but some people are saying that the line is from this crazy game from like 15 years ago for the PlayStation that blows my mind that people are bringing up. Racing Lagoon, which is this weird like. Gran Turismo meets Final Fantasy thing. It's like turn-based combat. It's turn-based, like you travel around this overworld map as a car, and then you get into like you run into a car, and then it initiates a battle where you drive.
Isn't that just Final Fantasy 15 or?
Pretty much. I was when I saw that. When I saw Final Fantasy 15 revealed, part of me was thinking it was Racing Lagoon.
I really hope there's car battles now.
Zack Reese and stuff like that.
A transformer.
What if the car's a transformer named Sid?
Or it's Magitek armor versus the car. They have to race down. It's one's on wheels, or it's like that. Final Fantasy VII, like the bike, like you're like that. You're the Doom train versus the
they're making
car.
a G-Bike game, right?
That came out not too long ago. Yeah, in Japan.
Yeah, I think it just came out. Yeah, CyberConnect 2 helped make that game.
I think
apparently
I think that's actually not a bad idea. Like, take a mini game that people liked and just kind of like center around that for a mobile release. I think that's kind of smart.
Yeah, and then eventually, hopefully, TetraMaster is going to be a part of those plans.
You mean Triple Triad?
Yeah, it's Triple Triad. Oh yes, but TetraMaster, whichever one of those. But yeah, but Racing Lagoon, crazy game. If you guys need to check it out sometime. That I was shocked when someone brought that up. But that apparently we're going to get a game soon. Sakaguchi and Nobumatsu are apparently talking about, they want to have Square Enix have them work with the team who made Final Fantasy VI to make a new game with them. People hear like 2D RPG, they're like, but then apparently, recently Square Enix announced that they made a new studio to make old RPGs again. So it's like it's not entirely out of the picture. And Ubisoft has had good luck with like UbiArt with like Child of Light and Valiant Hearts and stuff like that. So
I think it would make sense to have a small team working on, because those 2D games don't take as many resources. So I think that's a smart idea. We don't know.
You would get more of them, and their output would be larger. What's so bad about that?
Rather than throwing everyone on Final Fantasy 14 or 15,
Yeah, and Terra Battle is an amazing game. It's already cleared 1 million downloads. Soon it's going to hit 2 million. Then you're going to have the console version of that, which is supposed to be an MMO type of game, so it's totally much larger. So, got to support that where you can. But we're going to, of course, leave it on that. So I want to thank my special guest today. I want to thank Adam, thank Darren, thank Katie. Thank you guys so much for joining us today.
You're welcome.
No, thank you. It's great.
I actually had a lot of fun with you guys. I think we had a very good discussion. It was a good time today. I'm glad you joined us.
I don't think there would have been a conversation about a transforming car in Final Fantasy 15 named Sid anywhere else.
Mm-hmm.
I can't imagine myself having a conversation.
We create the standards. Screw the other RPG site podcast. We're talking about filling up your gas tank every few miles in a car, thinking about the more important parts of Final Fantasy 15, like kind of crap. So we'll see how they tackle those important issues of the day. So, but thanks for joining us. We'll be here next time. If you guys are hearing this, I hope you guys participate in Extra Life and donate to the cause. But check out our reviews on the site, stuff like that. Thank you very much for joining us, guys. Catch you next time on the TetraCast. Bye, guys.